ScentXplore 2025 was definitely one of the most fun things I did all year. If you guys haven't been, I highly recommend you check it out. My name is Daniel. I am the scented novelist, and this is my version of what I experienced in ScentXplore 2025. Made my way to the house of Memo. I got to meet the co-founder, and he did tell me a little bit about the brand, and I mentioned to him that I purchased Irish Leather as my very first fragrance, and he did mention to me that he was Irish as well. The bottles look so artistic, and that's one of the things that really drew me to the fragrances. And I later on made my way to Gentleman's Nod, and there was one fragrance in particular that got my attention, Tusitala. It's a really good fragrance. The house of Tomavicci had some really good fragrances. My personal favorite, Gâteau à l'ananas, very realistic pineapple upside down cake. And then we moved to the house of Noble Royale, and this is all day one, guys. Too many fragrances to try. At some point you kind of get overwhelmed, but once you take it all in, you have a good time. The house of Unique Luxury, my favorite from the house, Mangonificent, followed by Chocolate Makes Me Happy. I think both of those fragrances are really fantastic. If you guys haven't sampled those before, I highly recommend you give them a try. My Geisha have some really amazing fragrances. Rehab, Foreplay, Cannabis Lost Island as the newest fragrance. If you like Jean-Paul Gaultier Paradise Garden with the added cannabis note, I think you would find it in Cannabis Lost Island. And the house of Room 1015 had probably one of the best displays in terms of technology that I actually loved a lot. They had the retro tech, which I think was a special touch. You don't really see those anymore. NicheEnd, which is a brand that focuses on fragrances associated with planets. And my favorite from the house was Planet X. Nuit Nomade is another brand that I was very interested in. They have Sugar Leather, which is a great leather fragrance, as well as Chemin d'Amande, which is the newest release. Jardin de Misfa, which is my personal favorite, and I think it's probably the most versatile from the brand. Estrella de la Mañana is my personal favorite for a date night scent from this specific brand. Over to the house of City Rhythm. My personal favorite was a fragrance that's a mixture between St. John's and Puerto Rico. Really nice, tropical, inviting, smooth fragrance, and I really like that one a lot. I preferred it over St. John's, and I preferred it over Puerto Rico. Got to meet Niles, and he personally signed my bottles. Over to the house of J-Scent, which is a Japanese brand. Very natural ingredients in a lot of their stuff. And for me, the one that blew my mind the most was Yume Water, limited edition. Only caveat with that fragrance is it's only sold in Japan. And they made this a venue exclusive. Picture cotton candy in a bottle. That's exactly what you get with this fragrance. Japan only exclusive. So keep that in mind. On day 2, unfortunately, I slept a lot because I was so tired. There was a lot of walking around New York that day. So I got there pretty late, and I could only go through a few fragrance houses on that day. Bon Parfumeur was one of those fragrance houses. The other one was Elysian Parfums, which I featured on the channel before. I picked up lemon crinkle cookies and banana pudding, and those two fragrances are stunning. Made my way to Floraiku as well. I think the most impressive thing about them is they do consider the customers a lot. So the bottle design and the way it's packaged, you do have the bottle and a 10 ml cap on it, which pretty much allows you to sit your travel size fragrance in there. And I think that's pretty cool. And it looks very artistic, very nice. And over to the house of Les Folies du Parfum. Some of my favorite fragrances from that house were 2222, which I believe is very, very versatile. And I was also able to pick up their newest fragrance called Memento or Dear Semper, which is another very nice gourmand with chocolate, caramel, patchouli, and oud. And I think it's a wonderful combination. Since I didn't really do much in ScentXplore on that day, what I did do is go to Times Square, and I had a good time. I watched a comedy show, and that's pretty much how I ended my night on day 2. Day 3, I started off very strong, woke up super early this time, and actually made it there around 12:30. And the first place I went to was this brand that I'd never heard of before called Soul of Mine, and all the bottles are painted by hand. I thought that was pretty cool. Moving on to the house of Cosmo, they genuinely surprised me a lot. Some of my favorites, Crimson, Aura, and Dark Matter, which I did pick up a bottle of Dark Matter. Moving on to the Lionhead, house of Casati. And guys, I mean, these bottles, I could not leave that venue without owning at least one of these. And then over to the house of Mio Fusciuni. These guys make some of the strongest fragrances that I smelled on that day. A lot of them are very heavy on the incense, patchouli, and oud, so just be cognizant of that, but they smell really, really good. House of Dastan, my favorite display of fragrances at ScentXplore. And there you have the newest fragrance called 12 Faces. Everything from the start of the fragrance all the way to the dry down, which is my personal favorite dry down, is just fantastic. Warm, spicy, fruity fragrance, which dries down to something very resinous. I think this is my new favorite. Over to the house of Oman Luxury, I did get to smell Caden and Massage, and for me, with Caden, you get a very sexy vanilla fragrance that leans more masculine. Massage, on the other hand, is more resinous, darker, a lot sweeter, a little bit more powdery. Definitely check this fragrance out. Over to the house of Ojar. They only had one fragrance on display. The quality of the oud in here reminds me exactly of the same type of quality of oud that you get in Bulgari's Onek, and I like that fragrance a lot. And finally, I went to Maine, which is more of like a flavor fragrance house that develops these different flavors, and then they supply them to different brands to make fragrances. And of course, after day 3, all that walking around, getting all this footage for you guys, I had to make sure I left New York on a good note. So I ended up getting some Jamaican food. So good. Subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, my fellow novelist, fragrance is beautiful stuff. Peace.